Hello, Catskill International Film Festival, and welcome to our special workshop on screenwriting. I am Sunny Edelman, Upstate Women in Film and Television President. And here with me today, I have a very special person, good friend, and actually former president, now our advisory board president for Upstate Women in Film and Television, Hanna Sawka. She is a professor at SUNY Orange. She's also a filmmaker herself and a screenwriter. So she's going to be running us through kind of screenwriting 101. But if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to pop in the chat, type that in, or actually, I guess it would be the comments in Facebook. And we will answer those questions and, interact with those comments. So without further hesitation, I'm going to introduce Hanna to you. Hanna, go ahead, you can take over.
Hi. Okay, so normally I actually teach screenwriting for 15 weeks over at SUNY Orange. So we really get, into the nitty gritty. We have a lot less time today, but what I'm going to try to do is just give you some pointers, about where to look, for more information on how to do this, and just also some what I think will be valuable takeaways for you. And the way I would title this workshop is how to make sure your screenplay doesn't end up in the trash can. Okay. And what I mean by that is, lots of people write spec scripts and they send them out to festivals and, they send them maybe, to an actor, to a producer. And there are some things that you can do to make sure that your screenplay looks really professional and that people won't just turn a few pages and say, oh, this is not an experienced writer. It's just not worth my time. Okay. And actually it does work that way. If people see that you don't have, and kind of, I think the word out on the street, like people are aware that the formatting is important. People understand why there are programs out there like Final Draft. There are actually a whole slew of them. People know it's got to be like in Courier font and all that. But it's kind of more than that. Okay. And if people don't see that, you're kind of aware of how a screenplay is used, which your writing could give away, that's already going to turn them off, like literally in the first couple of pages. And we don't want that because you probably have a really interesting idea and you want them to make it to page 10 where it really takes off, and then they're just going to keep turning the pages and call you. Okay. Or you'll go on to the next round of the screenwriting festival. Okay, so I'm going to start just with first of all, I'm talking about a spec script. Okay. A spec script is what a script is called. That is, it's literally means like, first, like speculative, like, it's not commissioned. You are not the person who has $5 million to shoot it. Okay. It's a script for consideration. You might not direct it. Also, hey, not everybody wants to direct. It can be a pretty crazy job. So I'm talking about a spec script. You have this absolutely brilliant idea for, let's say, a horror film, and you want people to look at it, and it has to be written in a way that anyone that the producer, let's say, deems the best horror director around, for example, can direct it. Okay. So I want to make that really clear. Also, you should know what that term means. Okay. So now I'm going to also dip in really quick to the why of the screenplay format. Okay. Are people just being picky? Is it like just a tradition? Why does it have to be? Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to talk about that. Take down Benny's question. So the format isn't random. It's not a whole bunch of people just being traditional. Okay. The screenplay format that really is required in the field is required for a very specific reason. And that is that 1 page equals 1 minute. I'm trying to make sure that fits the screen. 1 page is 1 minute of screen time. Okay. So if I hand somebody a spec script and it's 90 pages, producer immediately knows, okay, I'm budgeting for a 90-minute film. Okay. And but It's more than that, okay? But very quickly, why this format equals 1 page, 1 minute, okay? So film only was discovered in 1895, which is fairly recent, although I know with all our cell phones and technology, that seems like ancient history already. And basically, people started kind of figuring out how to make films, how to edit films, and how to write for film. And as they were figuring out how to write for film, they were working on typewriters. This is why a screenplay is written in the Courier font. The Courier font is the typewriter font, okay? So people were figuring out, how to write for the screen and how to write that 1 page becomes 1 minute because it is so important for people to have an understanding. Oh, this is a short film. Oh, this is a 2 hour and 15-minute epic, right? So they were writing on typewriters. They were using Courier font, and they were figuring out the margins and the spacing. So basically, nobody wants to mess with that now. People might love Arial or Calibri or something, but people are not going to mess with what people figured out on the typewriters. We are not messing with that. We got 1 minute. It is standardized, and that it's going to be like that. This will be how typewriters live on for hundreds of years potentially. So that's one thing you've got to understand about a screenplay. And then another thing you've got to understand about a screenplay is that you're not writing, first of all, literature. There's no Nobel Prize for screenplays. There are prizes for plays. A playwright can win the Nobel Prize, but a screenplay, think about a screenplay as a blueprint, okay? And the film is the building that results from the blueprint. Okay. So we're not all going around and looking at blueprints even when we go to a museum, we might see models of a building. We very rarely will see blueprints. So you're writing a blueprint for a work of art that has yet to be created. Okay. And many creative people have to use your document, have to use this blueprint. You're not only writing for the director and the cinematographer, you are writing for the art department. You're writing for the casting agent, okay? The casting agent, Sunny, is sitting there. Sunny's done a lot of work in casting and is herself an actress. The casting agent is figuring out, oh, I'm going to need 500. Okay, that sounds ridiculous. CGI is actually going to do that in this day and age. But hey, I'm going to need 20 people in this bar scene. Okay. So the casting agent's sitting there. The line producer who comes up with the initial budget for the film is figuring out how many people are going to have to be hired. This is a document for multiple departments, and it is even used in post-production. Okay. So when you're onboarding the people who are going to edit the film, who are going to be the musical directors of the film, they also are going to read the screenplay. Okay. So this is a functional document. It is a blueprint. Now, why I'm saying this? Because you need to write it in such a way that all those people, first of all, have creative independence. Okay. You don't, with your spec script, you don't want to make decisions for the director. That's not your job as a screenwriter. It's not your job as a screenwriter to make decisions for the costume department unless let's say in your horror film, there's this thing where somebody always wears this red shirt, okay? And the red shirt appears every time somebody's about to get murdered, okay? That is important because that's part of your plot, okay? But you don't even want to go into detail about the physical appearance necessarily of a performer, because that's actually up to the producers who are going to get you like the talent that's going to bring in millions of viewers, right? And for the casting agents, you don't want to make decisions that really aren't necessary. You don't want to write out Brad Pitt or I don't know, whoever you want to cast from your screenplay. So you don't want to go into like unnecessary detail. You want to give people plot. You want to give people great dialogue, a great story. That is your job. This includes my biggest pet peeve, camera directions. You should not have camera directions in your screenplay unless you are the director. And usually, by the way, you don't put that in the screenplay that all the departments are going to read. You're going to actually put that in something called a shooting script. that you work on based off of the screenplay with your cinematographer. Okay. So crap like the camera zooms in. Okay. Or by the way, people think any camera movement is pan. They're like pan when tilt. Okay. Any crap like that, like tilting, you're not even going to say that if you're an amateur. You're going to think that's pan too. Pan is actually, and it's like that. Um, but you don't want to put in all those camera directions because they're actually going to step on the toes of the people who are going to make the film, and they are going to actually tip off the reader of your screenplay that you don't really know what you're doing. Okay. Remember, our goal is don't let the screenplay fall into the trash bin. Okay. So don't have things that, and again, it's not because people are so traditional. It's because you are making decisions that aren't yours to make. Okay. And that's not throwing shade at the screenwriter. If you're thinking about that, you're probably actually not thinking about the really important things that screenplay writers have to think about, which is, things like great dialogue, pushing the action forward, having a plot without silly holes in it. Okay, so that should be your focus with the screenplay. The other thing is why camera directions are bad is that they are literally a distraction. A well-written screenplay is written in such a way that all those people I just mentioned, right, who are going to help make the film come to life, that as they read it, they just picture it in their minds. Okay. And camera directions are kind of like if you're watching Game of Thrones and suddenly you see a microphone creep in into the frame, like that would so throw you off. Like goodbye, suspension of disbelief. Okay. So actually, a well written screenplay is just going to flow through people's minds. Okay. And you don't want distractions. You do want built in important things that, people need, like scene changes, which I'm going to get to in a minute. Okay. So I am going to answer Benny's question really quick now because I am going to show you a free format. Okay. Um, there's, for example, there's for a free screenwriting tool. I mean, it's free if you don't use all the whistles and bells. It's called Celtics. That's CELTX. Okay. But it only lets you like write and then export a PDF. Okay. Oh no, I'm not teaching that class, Thursday exchange. I'm teaching screenwriting right now. Okay, so all of that language that's like another class. So sorry, there are going to be a lot of questions about screenwriting. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, and I actually wrote my notes in a free software that Google provides. Okay, let me know if you folks can see it. Okay, and I'm going to move to a little bit of screenwriting sample here. Okay. Okay, so I don't know if people can see it.
I can see it, so they can see it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so
thank you.
this is a tool that is free in your Google Docs. I mean, it is a little creepy because when you download it, it's like, it can make changes and like Google spies on all of us. So, you have to be aware of that. That's a conversation for another day, I'm sure. This is a Google Doc, and through extensions, through add-ons, you can get a thing called the Screenplay Formatter, which I already launched. And as you can see, I've got that right here. Okay. So this works like this. So I already have a scene written here. Every scene starts with a header in a screenplay, and you have to tell people if it's inside or outside, interior or exterior. You write in your location and the time of day. Okay. And actually in the Screenplay Formatter here, you could just type it in. So I'm going to say interior, your bedroom, day. Okay, boom. It's just created a header. It's in bold because it shouldn't be in bold. Okay, but I was bolding something under it. Okay. I just put in 2 spaces. Every time you have a header, you've indicated to all the filmmakers who are going to read your screenplay that you have a new camera set up. Okay. So let's say you have a scene that starts in a bedroom. Oh, alarm. Just exits his bed. Okay. Now let's say that my next scene is going to be in the bathroom. Theoretically, that's like totally in the same area. In the screenplay, but it's actually a new scene setup. So I have to write a new scene. Okay. Oops, I started typing. Interior bathroom. Okay. Okay. Whoops. And I have action again. Okay. So even though I'm theoretically near the bedroom, I can't say, okay, bedroom and, have a header of bedroom, have him wake up, and then continue writing about how he goes in the bathroom and sees his black eye. That is actually a new setup, a new camera setup. So I have to put in a header that the location has changed. Okay. So that's just an example of how, of this particular formatter. If Walter were to say something, and this is again not I'm not, a lot of these work similarly. So his name is Walter. You don't even have to capitalize in here. He's going to say something. Okay. It automatically puts in the margins. As you could see, there are a lot of spaces. Um, there are also margins for the name of the character and for the dialogue. And this formatter just pops that right in for you. Parentheses is for, let's say he actually whispers it. That's what that is for. And that, gets that in there for you. Okay. But I'm going to move down a little and I'm going to show you a scene written, um, written with camera directions. Okay. So here's a scene. Just ignore the bedroom. Let's actually move that down. Here's a scene from a film. Okay. That I just came up with. Okay. Exterior Rondout Creek day. On a summer day, 3 teenage boys are swimming in the creek. Another boy launches from the bank from a rope swing and splashes into the water. A single yellow leaf slowly flutters down and lands on the surface of the water. More leaves flutter down onto the surface. The creek flows, empty of any people, between trees decked out in fall foliage. So I've kind of like created a poetic scene here. We saw these, the summer and that people are swimming in this creek. Then we see a yellow leaf, then there are more. We're kind of looking at the surface of the water. Then we see the creek again, and there are no people in it, and there's lots of fall foliage. We've indicated a change of season. Okay. Now I've put no camera directions in here. A filmmaker can do this scene in a variety of ways. They could show a wide shot of the creek with the boys swimming, right? And then they can have like the leaf float into frame, and then the camera could tilt down and follow the leaf until it falls on the surface of the water. Okay. And then, the camera stays on the water and we see more leaves. And then we could maybe tilt back up and now see that, oh, it's a fall scene. There are no boys there anymore. That's an example. Alternatively, the filmmaker can follow the leaf down. We could be looking at the water and they could cut and then show the wide shot of the creek. Okay. The filmmaker can basically tell this in a variety of ways. So that's my point of camera directions stepping on the toes. Now, I wrote this scene with camera directions, and you'll see, in my opinion, they are distracting. Okay. They are also imposing, oops, sorry. They're imposing a way to film it. Okay. So on a summer day, 3 teenage boys are swimming in the creek. Another boy launches from blah, blah. Camera follows a single yellow leaf as it slowly flutters down and lands on the surface of water. You're probably like, but you just explain that it can be done that way. But you know what? The filmmaker is going to know that if we're going to focus on the leaf, if the screenplay is talking about the leaf, they're going to know what they need to do with the camera. Okay. More leaves flutter down. The camera tilts up to reveal the creek, now empty of any people with fall foliage around. So we just made a directing decision that wasn't ours to make by putting in those camera directions. And they are also distracting because really, as we read it, we just need to know the location, that we need those four teenage boys because we got one swinging and the three swimming, right? We need to know we're going to need to focus on a leaf. We're going to need to focus on the water. The cinematographer is super paying attention, and he's got cool ideas, maybe cooler than yours, of how to do that. Okay. So
Hannah, we had a question about clarifying what parentheses were for. Is it for emotions or directions?
So generally parentheses should just be for something the actor needs to know. Okay. If it's something everybody else needs to know, like you should never have saying like Walter crosses the room in parentheses. Okay. It's only for for the performer that's performing Walter that we put things in parentheses. Walter walking across the room, obviously Walter needs to know that, but so does the cinematographer and so does the director. Okay. So we can put things like, loudly, angrily, softly. Okay. Telling the actor how to perform their line, basically. Okay. Sure, Alexis. Great question. Okay. So let's see. Did I cover my first list? Oh, another thing you need to know, and I'm sorry, we do not have enough time. I spend weeks with my students on this, but I just kind of want to, okay, I'm going to actually unshare for a little bit. Okay. Another thing you need to know, and okay, we're still focused on not having your screenplay being thrown out into the garbage, but in the first like 10 pages, right? But every film that you see on a screen in a theater, on Netflix, they all have what's known as a 3-part story arc. They all have a structure. And I know I'm like me saying this to students, they might be thinking, oh my God, she's such a Karen, like she's telling us like there's rule. Okay. This rule is really, in place. Like if you look at ancient stories, like oral traditions, even like pretty much all stories have a 3-part story arc. And it's not because some grandpa, 5,000 years ago said it needed to be that way. If you kind of really look across all the arts, there are proportions. Okay. And they're there because actually in all of nature, like if you want to like read about this more and check it out, there's something called the golden section, the golden ratio. Okay. Like all our proportions, like where our eyeballs are in our face, like how long our arms are, the angle at which branches even grow away from trees, unless we've grafted, they all follow actually these same like mathematical proportions. So it's in art, it's in photography, it's in architecture, it's all around us. And actually, those proportions are in stories. It's just like, if you tell a joke and you tell the first part way too long, like you've blown it. We're not even interested in hearing the punchline anymore, right? You got to kind of have it's that same thing, like a stand-up comedian. They know they've got to like get to that point, get to the punchline at the right moment. And stories also, all stories, they all have that in them. And it's actually a lot of people have also kind of figured this out. I will recommend some books for you. Like I said, there's no way I could cover this, in the time that we have together. So the books I assign to my students, there's one called, it's simply called Screenplay, and it's written by Syd Field. That's SYD, and field, just like a field of flowers. Okay. And he's pretty fun. He talks about the 3-act structure pretty generally, but very well. He also talks about a lot of other things like character development. It's a valuable book. And then my other favorite, like I pair them, is a book by Paul Gulino. Okay. And that's Gulino. and it's called the sequence approach. Okay. And the sequence approach is absolutely fantastic because what it basically does, okay, Paul Gulino has this theory that because film like started on these short reels, that's why it's like broken up into 8 sections. I actually disagree with him, and hopefully one day I can tell him to his face. But what, in my opinion, he did is he actually took the 3-part arc and broke it down into like its subsections, okay? Which is fantastic because actually the hardest part of the screenplay to write is the second act, which is your rising action, okay? And Gulino just gives even more guidance to the writer. He's like, by this time you need a plot twist, okay? By this time you need a mid-second act climax, before you get to the big one. So those are the 2 books I highly recommend. You do need to think about structure because, we're going to sit there and like fall asleep, because you didn't get to the point. It didn't get exciting. If you are adept at this 3-part arc, you're going to have people sitting at the edge of the seat, whether it's like, are they going to survive in the horror picture? Or is this couple going to get together in a rom-com? Okay. Across all genres, everybody is writing the 3-part arc. Okay. 3-part story arc. So please, like I said, we can't get into this today. But those are 2 valuable resources. You don't even need me. Okay. So on to the next thing. Okay, dialogues. Okay, dialogues are kind of a great way to look at, actually, they're a great like window into what should be going on in a screenplay, into like, a quality screenplay. So I think it's a great place to look. Dialogues are pretty tricky. And if you have lame dialogues, people are just like, they're going to stop reading. This is one of those things that's going to, where your screenplay is just going to be in the trash pile really fast because they're going to be like, oh my God, people don't talk like this. What is this? Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Because I definitely want to have some, time with you for questions and all that stuff. Okay. So I've got a whole PowerPoint. Okay. Let me know if you can see it. Oh, wait. I didn't. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Wait, how do you present? Oh, here it is. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I actually do use this in class. It doesn't look like it. Okay. I'm assuming you can see it. Oh, yes, you can. I can see it now. I can see that you can see it. Okay. Oh, so first, when we think about dialogue, I always ask my students to think about words and the power of words and to think in terms of words, in terms of verbs, how they can hurt someone, how they can build someone up or tear someone down, how they can be used to deceive someone, how they can be used to reveal things. Words can be used aggressively, diplomatically. They can form a bond. Okay, bring people together, divide people, right? A fascinating thing that's unique to the English language is that we use the word spell when we talk about how we spell a word. And that actually has origins in superstition of the power of words. It literally comes from the same word as, casting a spell. And, those ancient people who came up with that were kind of right because we all know about self-fulfilling prophecies about, like when you're raising kids, if you keep telling them they're, this or that, they're going to believe it, right? So words are super powerful and you should use them powerfully in your screenplay. So just take a minute to, think about that. Next, though, okay, think about, do I actually need dialogue? So I'm not going to play, by the way, that little screen played. If you've seen Little Miss Sunshine or are planning to watch it, there's the scene where Dwayne breaks his vow of silence. You'll know what I mean when you see it. There's not a lot of dialogue in that scene, and there's a lot happening. So if you can actually show it in actions, you don't have to tell it. Now, the dumbest example of that is you've got a character and your character announces, I'm going to leave. And then they walk out of the room. Well, did they really need to say that? They they can just walk out of the room unless they're trying to draw attention to themselves or trying to make somebody stop them or something. Okay. But your first question should be, do I even need dialogue? Okay. Because too much dialogue sucks. We don't want small talk. We don't want characters also officially announcing their intentions. Now, a good example of this is a character shouldn't just go out and be like, I plan to get revenge. Okay. No, it's more interesting. Let's say that you show that character observing the person who hurt them, and like you see them like watching that person having fun, and they're just looking at them like, what's brewing in them in there. And then you see them actually start implementing their plan of action to get revenge. They don't have to tell us with words. You can see them, buying the gun or whatever it is. So that's your very first question, actually. Do you even need to tell, have somebody say it in words? Okay. Less is more. 4 functions of dialogue. This is my little thing that I came up with. Okay. I admit it's my little, but I find it's effective for teaching. So, dialogue should provide information, reveal emotions, advance the plot, in other words, the action, and expose character. And it should do more than one of these at a time. Okay? It should multitask. Ideally, it should do 3 or maybe all of these. Okay? So if you need to provide information from the past, how about have it in the context of something that's happening in a scene? I have a little example here from On the Waterfront. Okay. Great film it was written by Bud Schulberg, directed by Elia Kazan. The famous scene with Marlon Brando, I could have been a contender. That's that movie. Okay. So there's a scene where Joey is thrown off the roof by these mob guys. And Pop, who, like there's, there's the dead boy, and Pop is saying, I kept telling him, don't say nothing. Keep quiet. You'll live longer. So this is revealing his emotions, right? Pop's emotions. It's also providing information. This indicates that like people knew this was coming. Maybe it's happened to somebody before. Okay, don't say nothing. Joey was saying something. Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of things happening as Pop says this. Okay, it reveals emotions. He's obviously like, oh my god, if he'd only not spoken. Like he's in despair, and we're finding out a backstory. Okay. So that's just a little snippet of dialogue that's doing a bunch of things. So you should always kind of look at your own dialogue and think like, is it advancing? I have, of course, my favorite example of, oh, no, that's subtext. I didn't get to that yet. Anyway, so think about, multitasking dialogue. Let me see if there's anything else. This is actually more. Oh yeah, I'm skipping those 2 slides because I use them with students as we're reading some of their screenplays. And don't have characters shoot the breeze. It's a waste of time. Another thing that's going to get your screenplay in the bin, in the trash bin, is what I call Q&A style. Speakers shouldn't speak just because it's their turn. And you know what? People don't do that. People like change the subject mid-sentence sometimes. They interrupt each other. Sometimes somebody asks somebody a question and they don't get the answer to their question. They hear something else, right? So definitely, as you're writing your dialogues, vet them and make sure it's not mechanical. Blah, blah, blah. Don't sound like AI, okay? AI is trying to take our jobs. No. So I call that the Q&A style, mechanical, and actually, and like I said, it just sounds unnatural, okay? Really, only robots do this. Now, you are right on track with dialogue if the character's words are hard for the speaker to say, or if they are hard for the listener to hear, or both. The example here is from a film called Chinatown, but I'm not going to do any plot spoilers. But if you've seen it, you know, you know. Okay. So another, okay. So another example that I just absolutely love to look at is the 3 words, I love you. Okay. Around Valentine's Day, it's like on all these cardboard boxes and things, right? And cards. Okay. So if you've got a romantic scene and a character, they're sitting there, they're holding hands, and the character says, I love you, that's so boring. Okay. Remember, it's got to be dramatic if it's going to be in the screenplay. Okay. How about having the character show the other character that they love them? Are the words I love you going to really matter? My favorite example actually of characters actually showing love is this wonderful story by O. Henry, The Gift of the Magi. And it's a story where there's this poor, adorable couple and they're planning Christmas presents for each other. But they're really broke. Now, the most precious object the husband has is a watch. I'm spoiling it. I'm sorry if you haven't read O. Henry, forgive me. And his lovely young wife dreams to get him a beautiful gold chain for his watch. And she has this gorgeous hair, long hair, and his dream is to get her. He saw in a shop window this beautiful set of very expensive combs. So guess what? She's like, she has no idea that he's planning to get her combs, right? And she goes and cuts her hair and has it sold so she could buy him the watch chain. But guess what? He sells the watch so that he could buy her combs. So then she gets combs that she can't use, and he gets a chain that he can't use. But of course, it doesn't matter because they have just shown each other love. They never never actually say, I love you in the screenplay. Sorry, it's actually a short story. It has been done for the screen, though. The whole film is about how they are willing to part with their most precious, things, like her gorgeous long hair that everybody admires and his beautiful antique watch from like his great grandfather, right? That's showing love, right? But now I have another. So we're going to keep going with the words I love you. Okay. So check out Gift of the Magi. So as I talk about I love you, I love this example because we can now talk about subtext. Characters shouldn't just blah say what they really want to do. Maybe there is a character plotting revenge, but they maybe are saying things that make them seem nice and like they're not actually planning to do something murderous. Okay. So very often it's interesting also for the viewer to observe characters and to be like, what are they doing? Like, what are they trying to do? That keeps us watching the film, by the way. Okay. So subtext, the character says one thing, but means another. And I have this little scene for you here. Okay. Interior kitchen night. Lisa and Bob are silently eating dinner from Chinese restaurant takeout containers. Lisa clears her throat. I heard back from the company in San Francisco today. Bob looks at her silently, but intently. Lisa continued, because if you don't have the other person's dialogue and there's action text in between, we write continued. They actually want to hire me. Bob, amazing. Congratulations. There's one problem. And Lisa pauses. See, this is a direction for her. They want me in the office. I won't be able to work remotely like I thought I would. Bob, what? You're not going to move out there, are you? They both sit silently, not eating. After a moment, Lisa nods her head. Lisa, listen to me. This isn't what we had planned. There will be another opportunity. They're not the only ones that will want to hire you. Lisa says, I'll still have to move. There are no jobs like that around here. Okay. And then Bob responds, rises from his chair and says, don't you know? I love you. That means nothing to you, huh? So now I have a question for you folks. When Bob said, I love you, is that like in O. Henry's story? Is he really expressing love? What's he expressing? Hey, somebody.
What do you guys think, audience? I I almost think he's like expressing that she belongs to him. Like, like you can't leave because you belong here, but it doesn't sound like
Yeah,
love.
Alexis is like, "No love there." Yeah,
Yeah.
Alexis, you're not gonna make mistakes in your love life. Alexis knows, hears it loud and clear. "Oh, I'm sharing the wrong screen the whole time. Oh my god, I'm so sorry."
Oh, I thought you were just reading. I was like,
Oh,
oh, she must have
I'm
a
so
script over
sorry.
there.
Wait, let me reshare my screen. I forgot that, like, I thought when I switched screen, oh gosh, I'm not good at this.
That's okay. We heard you. We heard you read
Okay,
the story, so
so
we
I'm oh gosh. So here is my little scene. So yeah, I don't think that Bob loves Lisa. I think he is, in fact, being possessive and he's like telling her, you need to choose me over your job. If he really loved her and this meant a lot to her, heck, you know what Bob needs to do? Bob needs to support Lisa, or maybe Bob needs to move his butt, apply for a job out there, and follow her there to help her live her dream. Okay. So what I'm saying here is that I love you is way more interesting, by the way. If we don't use it, like I said, O. Henry shows this story of this couple. They're both willing to make sacrifices for each other. Okay. And nobody has to say, I love you. We so know. It's so sweet. It's so heartwarming by the end of the story.
yeah, it is
He,
really. I actually remember
yeah.
seeing they showed us the video, I think in school one year, and I don't remember if it was college or high school, but I remembered seeing the video, like the actual like
Oh, it's
short
so
film.
wonderful.
Yeah, I
But
think
Bob
I
here,
cried. I was like, oh my
yeah, oh
god.
yeah, I know, totally. Bob here is not being loving, but he says, I love you. And that is interesting. That's subtext. Okay. And by the way, I have news for you all. Um, you know, oh, where's the love? The love is, I'll tell you, Lisa comes home exhausted from a day of work, and Bob has cooked up a gorgeous, delicious meal and washed all the dishes. There's the love. Okay. But remember, what I'm saying is it's about actions. Okay. And by the way, like this is even a little scary. He's rising from his chair. And I mean, I think he's using it in like, bully language. So the other thing I had in my little, rules of dialogue is exposure of character. That when somebody says something, okay, can you all see my cafeteria day, all that? Okay,
Yeah,
you
we
can.
see it. We see it.
Okay. Craig and Claire are seated at a table in the university faculty cafeteria. Craig sits up very straight while Claire is relaxed. So what's up? Craig stares hard at his coffee cup. Claire waits. Craig finally looks up. We've been friends for a long time, Claire. I want you to know that I think you are beautiful, brilliant, wonderful, and I don't just want to be friends anymore. And Claire answers, I thought so. Okay, so what I'm saying here is this reveals character. What do you think about Claire? um, and oh, by the way, you don't know how this is going to work out. Craig just put himself out there, and I, as the sadistical director or screenwriter, I'm going to cut it right there, and I'm not going to tell you what her answer was. We're going to have to figure it out, right? But you know, she didn't say, "Oh," right? She said, "I thought so." She's revealing her character. She's not, maybe she's not sure. Charles. Actually, I have to tell you, this story became a beautiful love story. Okay. It actually became a beautiful love story, but this was an independent woman who really wanted to, she had some bad experiences in the past, and she wanted some level of power, and she was a little nervous walking in, but it exposes character. You don't know much about her, but that's like a weird answer, right? But it tells you something about her, that's unique to this person. Okay. She's not rude, but it's like, oh, okay. And that was probably not an easy moment for Craig, right? So your dialogue has to be busy, people. Okay. It should expose character. It should keep us guessing. Okay. It should also, you want to create complex characters. I can't even get into that, but Sid Field is really good on that. So those are just some of the things. As that reader, and by the way, producers don't often read the stuff initially. They actually hire people to read scripts. And there is a former reader from Hollywood who lives in our area who actually once read one of my scripts and like told me about the whole, thing and what he was looking for. I definitely got some really good tips. And that actually was one of them, that, if he cracked open a script, saw camera directions, saw poorly written dialogues, he had no time to waste. He had a stack of other things to read. So that's kind of, the background of the premise. But I know you have a screening coming up. So let me open it up to your questions.
My audience members, any questions about screenwriting that you'd like Hannah to talk about? She had a short period of time, but it was like packed full with lots of really valuable information. So,
Well, I
um,
hope you'll all explore further,
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Who's this? Who's the former
No, no,
reader?
no. Not
We're not dropping names.
well, he has a different life now, and I
Okay, okay.
think he wants to get stacks of
He wants
script.
the quiet life out of the spotlight.
Yeah, yeah, it was, really cool of him to, make some time for me, but,
Yeah, that's such a cool thing to find too, to
yeah,
actually be able
yeah,
to speak to a reader who, was like screening them for
yeah,
films and for
yeah,
producers.
yeah, well, you never know. What is the most overused screenplay? Oh, well, I am not a reader. Do you mean like an overused technique, or I mean, I teach screenwriting every semester, and I get a huge variety. I get different genres. I'm surprised, like overused stuff. I don't know. It's it's really the things that I see are most often really are more like, weak dialogue, um people have pretty unique ideas for stuff. The other thing that I'll see is people kind of like thinking that they're cookie cutter human beings out there. So they're like a typical waitress. There's no typical waitress. If you have friends who are waitresses or waiters, like all of them are very different, and have different stories. And if you're in New York, they're actually sometimes really good actors. Okay. So yeah, I can't really. I don't know um I think maybe the reader would be able to answer that question better than me.
Is there like a genre that um, that is worth diving into, that is like taking off right now? Like this is the genre that everybody wants to have a screenplay written about it. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, and I saw Alexis's question. That's actually a good
oh,
one.
okay.
But I wouldn't recommend that, because by the time people are talking about a genre that it's like trending, it's actually over.
Yeah.
Okay. I just recommend that you tell stories that and that are unique, and don't try to like copy other people. But really quickly, Stefan, if you could keep that question up. Um,
I just wrote it down. I got it.
yeah. So Alexis, typical short film. Okay, short films are not screened at very many places. The places where they're most commonly screened are film festivals. And actually, you have to be aware that there actually, in a sense, are, first of all, you should check film festivals and see if they have requirements. Like short films can only be up to 15 minutes in length. Now, this whole thing, again, is not film festivals being fascists. Film festivals have to program, okay? And they have to sell tickets. So if you decide to make a 30-minute long short film and everybody else has 15-minute films, they're going to like, how are they going to even block that, Well, maybe they'll do one, but then it's like unfair. Like, you have the 30-minute slot, and then, only two other people or three other people can show films. So with short films, short films are a great opportunity to get your work seen and to like break out. Okay. And to meet people and all that good stuff. And it's so fun to be at a film festival as a filmmaker who is screening. Take my word for it. It's better than any vacation I've ever taken in my life. And
Yeah, and a
maybe I
lot
have
of times, like
lame vacations. Yeah.
I see like people put out a short about a film that they want to make a feature out of. It's kind
Oh,
of like
yes.
A little
It in a
appetizer.
good way, yeah, absolutely. Although, again, if you get too much into that mindset, you might not make you might have a powerful idea for a 90-minute film, right? But will that really work in, short? Um but what was the
Mm.
question? Stefan had a question
Okay,
before.
Stefan was asking how you get through writer's block. Oh, here it is. Figuring
Oh
out
my
if you
god,
get
there are
stuck.
like books out there for people. You just okay, actually, I'm working on a book right now, actually, and I have a writing buddy who is also writing a book. And we Zoom or call each other every week. And we're just embarrassed not to have something to report. So I find that that works for me. And just telling myself, I've got to block out, even like I have to block out time every day, even if it's a half hour. And there's just no way about it. You just have to kick your butt. You can't be super perfectionist. Even if you like barf on the page, I mean, not literally, though I'm sure writers have done that. Even if you write absolute garbage, you can later figure it out and like do rewrites. But you just absolutely like you won't get anywhere if you don't start. And I deal with this with students, and I'm like, it's a graded assignment. So they actually have a deadline,
Yeah.
right? But I always tell them that, if you don't like I have them hammer down a plot synopsis pretty early, and I'm like, you're gonna change this probably in 30 different ways, but just start now, and don't give me excuses like I'll fill this in later. Fill it in with something, because actually if you fill it in with something it doesn't quite work, you're a step closer to what will work. Okay. Oh, no, I love all genres. I just love good writing. I mean, okay, I don't like like really violent horror films. Like, I'm just like there's so much actual horrible things going on in the world. But for example, The Shining, Kubrick's The Shining is a horror film, and I absolutely adore that film. It is absolutely brilliant. So I'm Elmira, by the way. So did I miss a question?
No, I think we got the favorite genre question, right? I think it was the only
Okay.
one. I don't think we
Okay.
missed anything else for that. Any other questions out there, guys? Are you writing anything now, Hannah?
Yeah, I'm writing a book though.
Oh, your book,
Yeah,
yeah. Ms.
yeah,
Elmira.
yeah. Although it's really funny because I started it as a Netflix series and I
Oh,
still have
cool.
that. But in the meantime, like things happened. I actually have a book agent, and so it was like, okay, Hannah, can you like back it up and first write a book? Do you have a book in you for this? And I was like, actually, I do. So I have my draft, my little episodic. Uh,
That's cool.
Screenwriters inspire. Oh, so I gave an example of Bud Schulberg, but Ernest Lehman, who worked with Hitchcock, with Alfred Hitchcock, amazing screenwriter. In fact, I assigned one of his screenplays to my class, and of course Hitchcock himself did amazing adaptations. Yeah, those are like just ones I could think of off the top of my head. Uh, yeah. Any other? Okay. We're time for one more question, probably.
We got,
So
yeah, we still have 5 more minutes.
speak
We
now.
think
Nope. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
depends.
Yes. Hitchcock was the
Oh,
master.
Hitchcock. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is
Yeah.
Charlie Kaufman a screenwriter or just a director?
I think he's a screenwriter too. I'll have to
Didn't he
look that
write
up.
like those really like interesting films?
Yeah. No. But
Like,
I guess I don't know. That's not one of my faves. So I mean,
yeah,
no, not that I don't like it, but
they're different.
um,
They're like different.
yeah. I think Spike Lee. I
But
love
yeah,
his.
there's a lot of directors
Yeah,
that are also like they write
yeah.
their own stuff. Yeah.
I'm not a fan. I'm gonna piss people off. I don't
Uh-oh.
like Tarantino. I think he has too
Oh,
much dialogue. No, I like
I
some
can
of his
see
early
that.
work
I can
more,
see
but
that.
like recently, I'm just like, oh God, you're in love with your inner voice, dude.
But then I heard like because I really liked his first
Nolan,
film, which was
yeah,
Reservoir Dogs, but I heard that that was written by someone else. That he
yeah.
actually I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
I actually am not a huge fan of Christopher Nolan as a director even.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think I liked Oppenheimer, but because of the performances, I was not a great fan of just, actually how that was written and directed. Greta Gerwig. Oh my God, how can I not mention her?
Oh, yeah, yeah. She's
Brilliant.
amazing.
Yeah,
Oh, Darren.
Darren
Yeah,
Aronofsky.
Darren.
Absolutely. Oh God. The film with the drugs. Oh, that's so brilliant. And The Wrestler, Requiem for a Dream, The Wrestler, brilliant films. But Greta Gerwig is just such an. I mean, she wrote it with Noah Baumbach, but Barbie is so interestingly written. Oh, The Whale.
Yeah, Whale.
Sure, sure. The Whale's great. Yeah. So lots of people doing good writing right now out there.
That was Darren. Darren was the
Yeah.
whale, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and a filmmaker, speaking of women, Greta Gerwig, very interesting work. There's a film a few years ago called The Farewell. Lulu Wang directed it. And it's very well written as well, written by the director. Okay. Oh, and if you're into this and want a whole semester of it, you do not have to be a full-time student at SUNY Orange. It is, I do teach it in person, so you would have to be local. But I teach screenwriting every semester. We meet twice a week. You could be any age, and if you can commit to that, it is during daytime, like working hours always. I don't remember my hours next semester, but if you're into really getting into it, the course results in a up to 20-minute short, short form, short film screenplay. And we get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah. That's great. And I always hear like it's also a good idea to like sometimes people will get together when they're screenwriters and just like write together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some of the best, there are theories that Shakespeare's plays were actually written by what's basically a writer's room, and a lot of the coolest content.
Now they're trying to draw you in more.
Oh, that's a lot of work and a lot of reading. So many of the wonderful shows, for example, that we watch are written by writers' rooms and collaborative writers.
Disney does it all the time. Like they come together and they just come up with a bunch of stories for Disney and they just write.
Yeah. Oh, Benny. So just go to sunyorange.edu. It's my college's website. Actually, the course schedule for next semester is going to be open like around November 10th. And then you could see when the class runs and all of that. So yeah, you could, if you're not planning to get a degree or whatever, you could, I think, even like audit the class. But you're treated just like all the students, taken just as seriously.
And I saw somebody like put a comment about Stephen King, and I heard that he does all his writing at night.
I personally, he writes scary stuff, so that makes a little sense. But I don't know. I find that I've read articles that your brain is more creative in the evening, but it's better at executing. So like I try to like come up with notes and ideas and then write in the morning. But I also write in the evening. Sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, I have an idea.
I got to write this down.
Yeah. Oh, and don't forget, if an idea pops into your head and you're like, that's cool, you've got to write it down because amazingly you will forget it. So if you write a lot, keep a notebook handy all the time. Okay, go see the films now. It's 6 o'clock, right?
Yeah, it's almost there. We still have like 1 minute.
Okay. I want to make sure, everybody.
I know. And there's going to be some great films. There were some great films already that we've seen. So, and then closing, guys, don't forget closing. And also we have, tomorrow we have the podcasting panel with Jamie and Karen Zellemeyer. So they're going to be coming at 5 o'clock tomorrow and talking about their podcast. Oh, thank you, Alexis. And yeah, and I can't express. I learned so much just from this, 45 minutes or so of
jam-packed.
I was taking notes for myself. I'm like, oh, like I'm going to be either writing a script anytime soon, but maybe you never know.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, very insightful. So So again, guys, if you would like to get a hold of Hannah, she's a professor at SUNY Orange. And like she said, if you were interested in doing any kind of classes with screenwriting that she offers, you can sign up there.
Awesome.
Everyone saying thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks for
welcome.
coming, everybody, and happy writing and get past writer's block. You can do it.